Namaste, my beloved. May I welcome you this morning to my heart and also to the temple of Kriya Yoga. It's obviously always a delight to baptize a child, an entity, a person. It is an important step. It's a commitment to the inner life. It's a commitment, a reminder, if you will, that life ought to be and is good, that there are things that are subtler and deeper, that as they espouse within us and as we feed them, so our external life, our love life, our financial life, our health life is vivified. That is what life is about. That is what the spiritual life is about. The vivification of our lives. We are, no matter what we say and no matter where this body is at, always on the first Sunday, I send healing vibrations. These are vibrations of love. These are vibrations of forgiveness. These are vibrations to remind each one of you that I love you and that you are loved. Now, there are problems in life. And the secret of maturation and maturing is to learn to come to understand that we are to deal with these things maturely. And on a deeper, committed level, to come to understand that what life really is about is learning to change that which is inside us, our attitudes, our unawareness, our avidya, so that we can deal more fully. Now, Kriya Yoga is many things. It is a path. And as I have openly spoken to all of you for so many decades, it is not the only path. But every path is a path of self-discipline, a path of healing the mind and the body. The word Kriya, by its very nature, is linked to the English word creation and creativity. We are to evolve within ourselves a creative state of consciousness by which we solve our life problems before they begin, to soften them if they have already begun, and to improve genuinely our inner life. Now, this does take time. This does take space. It does take effort. But as you or I or as we grow in our contentment, in our quietude, in our happiness, in our fulfillment of our lives, we radiate to people genuinely energy and a message. This is and ought to be the nature of life. Fulfilling, complete, satisfying, constructive, creative. We must always begin with our own self-improvement. As much as the world wants to change the world, they call it improvement. What they want is change the world. What we ought to want, what we ought to desire, is to change ourselves. That is to say, to improve ourselves. Why? That we might find this which the sages are talking about. Contentment, peace, satisfaction, fulfillment. The ability to be creative rather than cremative, if you'll permit me. The ability to be creative in our love life, in our sex life, in our monetary life, in our career, in our home life, in every facets of our being. To create, to improve, not just our lives, but the lives of those that are around us and surrounding us. The spiritual pathway The path to this completeness is just like learning to smile. If you smile, people smile back. If you frown, they will frown back. If you bitch and moan, guess what? Life is a mirror, and everybody is waiting for someone else to first smile. It's as simple as that. I remember as a very young teenager writing a meditation for myself. And it's very childish, but I'd like to share it with you because the child that has come forth today, Tara Dawn, to have us, the temple, the parents, Swamiji, to assist in opening and to hold open what we call Brahmaranda, the doorway to God consciousness. I prefer to call it the doorway to happiness. The meditation says, O Great Spirit, assist me to forgive those who have cheated me, so that I might to mankind in you return to be true. O Great Spirit, assist me to forgive those who have lied to me, so that I might your spiritual kingdom see. O Great Spirit, help me to forgive those who have hurt me to the core, so that I might to your spirituality soar. O Great Spirit, I humbly do implore you relieve these emotional sores. Bring, give stillness, joy, and peace. Let my mind, allow my mind to find true spiritual release. Steer my ship to inner peace. As childish as is, it's the awakening of a soul in anguish. It's an awakening as you and I these days see what seems to be inequality, unfairness, injustice. How do we change these things in this world? We change these things first by changing ourselves. It is essential that we do recognize oftentimes that we are in pain, that we are in discomfort, or that we recognize we are happy, and yet there is still greater happiness to be obtained. But the attainment of greater happiness, of ecstasy, of wisdom, of joy, of equanimity, of serenity, these things are to be obtained that they might be shared. It is like that. We need to look, to recognize, and to do something about that which is within us. That is what I would call imbalance, emotionality, if you will. It is most often corrected by changing our attitude towards things. This is what is essential. This is what is necessary. Now I have one of those stories I've told you a number of times. It's one that is very hard for some people to grasp, but I'll fill minutes with it. Once upon a yogi time, there was a man. Now this man spent an infinite number of years mastering the language of the lions. Mastering the language of the lions. Now when he had succeeded in mastering the lion's language, he went around inquiring to all the lions, "Excuse me, sir, Mr. Lion, where is the wisest of all lions?" He didn't think that the lions that he was asking were any too smart or any too clever, so he simply kept asking, "Where is the wisest of all lions?" Ultimately, these lions directed him to another lion. They said, "That soul is the wisest of all lions." Thus the man asked 3 questions of this lion. The first question he asked is, "What is mud?" The lion sort of tilted his head and said, "Well, Mud is something that coats your feet and tickles them when they get dry. The man raised his eyebrows and he shrugged his head. Anyway, he moved on. He asked the second question. What happens in the bushes? Oh, ho, ho. What happens in the bushes? The lion looked at him, shook his head, and said, well, sometimes they get in the way of my whiskers. That upset the man. But anyway, he asked his third and final question. What is mankind's greatest disability, O lion? The lion answered immediately, that's obvious. Man doesn't have any claws. The man thought to himself, lions are really very uninteresting. They're really very dull. And having realized that he had spent decades upon decades mastering the lion's language, he was crestfallen. And he simply walked away totally dejected. As the man was walking away, a tiger approached the lion. The tiger asked, who is that animal? The lion answered, well, that's some sort of stupid species. I think they call him man. All they do is talk about such trivia that I treated him as a simpleton. End of the story. Now the yogi story has 3 points, three factors. There's 4, but I'll talk 3. If you're looking for the wisest of all lions, don't ask a dumb lion who's wise. Right? That's the first mistake we make in life. Secondly, if you find the wisest lion, don't waste his time or your time talking trivia. And thirdly, you should be able and you ought to formulate the answer to your question. If your mind conceived the question, your mind can answer that question. But everybody has told you through life, oh no, you can't. Only the geography teacher can teach you geography. Only the policeman can teach you punishment. Only the yogi can teach you yogi. That sort of funny language. Only the nurse can teach you nursing. It's not true. And that is a thing that needs truly to be corrected. That if your chitta, the totality of your consciousness in various layers, has brought up a question to consciousness, the deeper layers and the higher layers of consciousness can formulate an answer to that question. But then we say, oh, but that's just my answer. Let's get a wise lion like Kriyananda and get an answer, because his answer is wiser. It may or may not be, but that's not the point. The point is, it may not be an answer for you. This is what life is about. This is what life really is about. Life is really about your finding your answers. And that's why I have, I think, been a good teacher and keep telling you, study everything you can study. Listen to all the systems of philosophy and theology you can. And everybody says to me, oh, but that's so confusing. And I say, great. It'll make you think. And come up with your own answers. And if they're not your answers, then they have no direct relationship to the chitta, to the mind stuff that's really inside you. Because really, in simple terms, very simple terms, the problem of life is we're uncomfortable with ourselves. That's it. You say, oh, no, I'm sick. Oh, no, I'm poor. Oh, no, I'm too tall. Oh, no, I'm too short. Oh, no, I'm disadvantaged. Let me tell you, if you're down here, you're disadvantaged. So it makes us all advantaged. We're all equal, okay? Other people will tell you it's not so. The problem is, in simplest of language, the problem is that you're uncomfortable with yourself. I remember giving a lecture, meditation, some years ago, a couple of decades ago, and the title of the lecture was, Are You Allergic to Yourself? And most people nodded yes. Why? Respectfully, because you listened to somebody outside you. You hear what I'm leading, where I'm going? You listened to someone outside of you. You believed someone when they said, well, people with white skin are better. And you believed them. for a while. Well, you know, taller men are brighter, you know. Men with big noses, you know about that, don't you? Ah, a few people do. All this garbage goes into the world, and you hear it? You accepted their answer. And therefore, you say, oh, I'm inferior. Bad word, but I'm going to use it. Which isn't true. You're you. And what is wondrous about you? Not you, the ego, but what's wondrous about you, the totality of your entity, your mind, your body, your spirit, your memory track, your awareness, is that you are a unique creature. You are like a snowflake, and that's why I always say, where, oh where, are the snows of yesteryear? Which I mean, where are my disciples from the last lifetime? Where are they sleeping? Why have they not descended upon me before the sun comes and this snowflake dissolves? Where, oh where, are the snowflakes of yesteryear? You know, there's a wonderful government has given $30 trillion for a snowflake investigation, I think 1940 or 50. And they have a big ice box, and they go around the world collecting snowflakes, and they freeze them. And they got all these snowflakes frozen. I think what they're doing now is probably photographing them, but in the early days they were collecting them. And they were looking for 2 snowflakes. And they found out that the snowflakes, like the fingerprints, just don't duplicate themselves. Now you may know that fingerprints aren't the same. Voice prints aren't the same. Facial features aren't the same. Unless they're white men, they all look alike. They all act alike too. And the point is, you are a snowflake. And the mistake that you have imposed upon yourself and have been generated by other people is the belief that you're supposed to be like Kriyananda, or like Yogananda, or like Swami Nakananda, if you know him. Swami Dhammananda, I sometimes jokingly say. And you shouldn't. Nor should you be like your mother. Nor should you be like your father. You should be like you. But whether you know it or not, you're trying to be like someone else because you believe in the matrix of your consciousness that the other people are perfect and you're imperfect. This problem, which is a spiritual, social problem, is revealed in women who have terrible self-imageries as a group. What do? This is what they do. They tell me all the time. For decades they've been telling me. I say to them, what's the matter? Oh, I'm depressed. Why are you depressed? Well, I'm not as short as Mary Jane, which is true. No problem. Yes, but I'm not as cosmic formed as Diane. Yes, but I'm not as wealthy as Louise. And they go on picking various parts of their psyche and anatomy and comparing it to 2,000 other women. You can't do that. That's not fair to you. But you do it. You've been trained to do it, and it is a mistake. And men do the same thing, but to a lesser degree. And the answer is, don't pick anybody and compare yourself to anyone. Forgive me, I don't know how to say it other than you are better than anyone else. Now, I hope you hear what I'm saying. You are more perfect is what I'm trying to communicate than anyone else. You are the most perfect you that I know. So why are you trying to be something else? And that is the discomfort that causes you, in my language, to runt and rant and rave. Now this is around the world, not just here in this happy land, but around the world this is utilized by bad people. I rarely use that word. These are people who stimulate that negativity, particularly in women, so you will buy things. They have bad karma coming. I don't know. And somehow you have to say, I wonder why he's saying that on television. What is he trying to sell me? And the answer is, some things that people sell you are good things and we can use them. But the answer is, don't buy it out of a sense of incompleteness or a sense of lack. You are a snowflake. You are, believe it or not, the snowflakes from yesteryear. Where, oh, where are the snows of yesteryear? They are here. We are here. Not one better. not one lesser, not one larger, not one smaller. I'll say it again. We are all circles. You know what a circle is? It's a perfect circle. Now, show me a circle that's more perfect than another circle. Can you do that? You can't. You can say, oh no, he's a big circle. He's a big wheel. And the answer that may be, but a circle is a circle or it's not. If it's ellipsoid, it's not a circle. If it's square, it's not a circle. It's either a circle or it's not a circle. And a humanoid, you are a circle of eternity, of perfection. And there is, please hear me, there is nobody better than you. A circle is a circle or it's not a circle. Show me a more perfect circle. You can't. Now we can start saying, well, this person can make money better than me. This person's had a better memory than me. This person can speak 3 or 4 languages more easily. This is true. But those are attributes. Those are traits. Those are trained conditions. Because they were important to that person. Ultimately, we all have to give up our training of trying to master things and return to the self. Now the self, the Atma, if you'll permit me to use the word, the spirit if you prefer, whatever word you use, it is simply, forgive me, a ball of light, a third-dimensional circle. Okay? It is light. You've heard it before. It has no attributes. It is not a Jesus. It's light. It's not a Buddha. It's light. It's not a Krishna. It's light. It's not a Kriyananda. It's light. Ultimately, all these divine figures merge back simply into light, which I call life. And the secret is, let go of all these pressure points within you that you have to do this and you have to do that. Just enjoy life. Now, I said this once, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and one of my Leoan disciples say, well, I'm glad to hear you say that, Kriyanan, because I really enjoy robbing banks. And I said to him, you have my blessing. What type of flowers would you like me to send to your grave? What type of food would you like me to send you to your prison? If you really believe that that's a joy-filled thing, do it. And he shook him up rather badly. And then I said to him, as I say to you, the one ultimate spiritual human law that you must hear, must understand, and must apply to your life, as I must apply it to this body and mind, is never lie to yourself. Never lie to yourself. Never lie to yourself. I don't care if you lie to me. I love you. I don't care if you lie to God. I'll still respect you. Don't lie to your spouse or husband to get you into trouble. You can't remember the lies, but don't lie to yourself. And it means there are needs and desires within you. Now, they may be wrong. They may be improper. They may be out of control. But one must recognize them. Yes, driving to the key point, there is within you and in most people hurt. And the answer is that somehow you are responsible for that hurt. If someone hits you, if you want to blame them, fine. But if you drag that hurt for the next 20 years, whose fault is that? You can say, as many people say to me, well, my mother and my father, they didn't treat me right. And I'll say, that may or may not be, but that was 40 years ago, George. You understand? What are you doing about it? They did the best they could. You understand? You can do better, do better. If you can't, accept yourself and accept them. It is not a realm of perfection. At some point, for some of it's 11 years old, for some of us it's 90 years old, for some of it's never in a given lifetime. But somewhere in each and every life, I am believing we have to grow up. Spirituality, in my term, is equivalent to psychological maturation, psychological maturity. That means we are responsible, not for the thought that comes into our mind, but for what we do with that thought. If we get slapped and we say ouch and we get angry, that's acceptable. But 0.5 of a second later, what we do with the memory is now our responsibility. And the answer is, forgive me, to forgive. Now, I can remember, as a young child, I was telling some stories out of school the other day, and this is and probably was not the the gentlest soul in the world. I can remember scaring the heavens out of my mother a couple of times, you know. I remember when I found out that there was explosives. I started manufacturing, as a young self-chemist, I started manufacturing explosives in the basement. Then I realized maybe I could get to the moon. So I built a skyrocket and thought I tied, what do you call those, lead soldiers onto a little skyrocket that I made, and I lit it, not realizing there's such a thing as gravity and that lead weights are heavy. So my skyrocket went, rather than go up to the sky, and I figured if I did that, I'd put two on. If I got large enough, I could put me on it sooner or later. That was the logic of the child. And what I did, you know, I put this lead weight with soldier, which was very heavy, and it went boom. And guess where the skyrocket ran? Right on the top of the third house roof of my mother's house, which we were renting. And all these hot flames, you know, were coming out on the entire roof. And I said, oh, I really done it now. Really. Lord, make it go out. You know, I did it, but make it go out. You know, save me. I don't want another spanking. Unfortunately, it gave a little burst and, you know, tripped off the edge of the angular roof and fell to the ground. And I was very relieved and promised I'd never make another one because God had saved the house and my rear end from burning. And the next day I made another one. Do you understand? We are strange creatures. We say something and we mean it at the moment we say it, and then we forget. And so we need to remember. We need really to remember. We really need to remember. What is important is we understand, as a young child, that I had a fight with my stepbrother. It was one of probably the worst fights I ever had. And he was beating the heavens out of my physical vehicle. And he wasn't about to stop. And I decided, you know, should I sit there and take it, or should I do something? And so I decided, as the younger of the child, to do something. And what I did was beautiful karate, I must say. But it was just terrible what I did to him, okay? That was the last time he ever picked on me. But I went to bed that night, angry, hurt, disturbed at him, because of him. And I'd even say, because what he made me do. You hear what I'm trying to teach you? And I laid in bed, or lie in bed, whatever it was. There I was, in the prone position, on a thing called a bed. And I could not sleep. I was so angry. I could say, as a very, very young child, preteen child, I had hatred in my heart, and it was in my head. That's the first time I had, in this lifetime, ever experienced it. And I said to myself, this is icky poo, this is caca. I don't know, this. You know, if I'm so mad at him, what the hell am I doing having him in my bed? Matter of fact, what the hell am I doing having him in my head? You understand? He was in the other room. What am I doing? He's in my bed. He's in my head. If it's such a bad, and I hate him so bad, what am I doing? And that night, I think I never slept more than 15 minutes. Whether you want to call it praying, whether you want to call it meditating, whether you want to call it affirmation, or any other mind concept or technique, I got that hatred out of my head. But the old Christians would say it was really like wrestling with the devil. The devil was called Kriya. Okay? There was a thought in my head, and I had to get it out. And finally, close to dawn, it was out of my head. And I was so relieved and so happy that I could fall asleep. And I vowed then that I would never, ever experience that feeling again. And as we say in America, I haven't and I shan't again, ever. That's important. But we tend to say, symbolically speaking, it's my brother's fault. He made me do it. You know, it's my mother's fault. She made me do it. It's my father's fault. He didn't do it. Okay? And the answer is, the contact that we have had with these entities in yoga, these are karmic conditions. And they mean very little. They mean very little. They're like electromagnet. Here's electromagnet, and here's something a piece of metal, and you turn the electromagnet on for a second, and the pencil goes pook, the metal pencil hooks on, right? Then you release the electromagnet, and the pencil falls, right? That should be the end of it. But what people do, the head has got a lot of lead in it, a lot of metal in it, a lot of steel in it if you prefer, and we walk by electromagnet and go look, and immediately the electromagnet goes off, and 20 years later we're doing this. You understand? We're still leaning against the electromagnet. The anger, the feeling, the experience. Anytime we want, we can walk away from it. The longer we stay, the more the habit, the less we have the ability to think, aha, I can walk away from this. There's no force field holding me, except the force field called me. Now, the enemy has been met. It is I for me, and you for you. And so there is in the healing process, there is a need for you to deal with the hurts, the people that you think have hurt you, the people that have hurt you, the people that have hurt you accidentally, the people that have intentionally hurt you. Get them out of your head. Forgive them. It's a very hard thing to do. But if you forgive them, they're out of your head. The dis-ease of the mind will produce harmony, bliss, tranquility. And one of the most important factors, I'm going to cuss, please forgive me. Okay, I'm going to cuss. The most important factor is to remember that that son of a gun had no choice in doing what he did. That bastard had no choice in doing. He was totally controlled by his ignorance, his desire, his greed, his karma. He had no choice. He did the best he could, and he did lousy. And the answer is, can you, can I, can we do better? And if we can, the answer is very simple. The answer is, aha, let me love him, that bastard. I didn't say he was a good guy, but let me love him. Let me understand he did the best he could. And as we overcome that in our mind, I tell you a great mystical secret. We change his mind on an inner level. If someone hurts us, and we can learn to understand his actions or his error against us, if we can forgive that person, we can understand. And forgiving is forgetting, not suppressing, but letting go and moving on. We have healed that person's inner mind, and it's only a matter of time. Remember the old Jewish joke of the woman who came? It's a Jewish joke. And the rabbi said, I see, you're not very heavy. Like that. He says, yes, my marriage is awful. She says, I understand it's been like that for years. Oh, decades and decades. He says, why don't you get a divorce? And she says, I want that person to suffer. I'm staying. You understand that? That's an attitude. You got to change the attitude. Yes, make them suffer. But who is also suffering? You, your family, your children, your culture, your religion, your civilization, the world, all sentient creatures. Let go. It is easy to let go, if you choose to let go. Why should you let go? Because you want the bastard out of your head, symbolically. Good reason. And all of a sudden, you, like I as a young child, there is a cleanness within us. There's a cleanliness within us. There's a re-sparkling of a joy within it. There's a feeling of wow, called life. All that fear, that anxiety, that bad chemistry, it's gone. And we realize this is the way it ought to be, if you'll permit me. This is the way I choose it to be. This is the way I want it to be. And even though you're mad at the bastard, you can't be mad at him. You really can't generate a great deal of energy at him with any degree of consistency or intensity. And that makes you happy. And it may take years, but all of a sudden you look back, and it takes usually 2.5 years plus. You will look back and say, wow, he also has changed, hasn't he? He also has grown and improved. We are linked, and there are bad people out there. There are greedy people out there. There are the manipulators out there. And we should truly protect ourselves from them. And the best way to protect yourself from them is to love. How do you love? You love them and you love life by truly respecting yourself, appreciating yourself. It's hard. As I said to many of you, in one of the classes I gave you an 8.5 by sheet of paper, and I said, write out 108 great qualities that you had. And most people couldn't put one down, except one Leo put 3 down. I'm glad you appreciate that. Okay. Okay, gave him plenty of time. Then I gave him another sheet of paper, and I said, okay, put down 108 bad qualities you have. You know what I heard? Do you have a second sheet of paper? And that's the truth of it. And that's an attitudinal thing that must be changed. Now you can change it by going to sleep at night and having an affirmation, as the Frenchman said. Every day in every way, I am becoming healthier and healthier. Recognizing that means mind-body. Or you can say, every day in every way, I am becoming happier and happier. Or you can say, every day in every way, I'm becoming wiser and wiser. Or every day in every way, I am becoming more and more loving. Okay? Now, the mistake that people make, they say, I'm wise, I'm happy. And the subconscious mind says, oh yeah? And you get negative input. But if you say every day and every way I'm becoming happier, the old subconscious mind says, you're not happy. And the mind repeats, that's right, I didn't say I'm happy. I said every day and every way I'm becoming happier. You hear the loop? That's a very important concept psychologically. Fall asleep with it. But the point is, pick one thing. Okay? Every day and every way I'm becoming more and more patient. But the next day you can't say every day and every way I'm getting wiser. You can only pick one. And you must run with it. Whether that's 30 years, 30 lifetimes, or 3 days. Until truly that affirmation manifests into the subconscious mind, comes up to the conscious mind, and you're living it without effort. And for most people, that's somewhere between 3 months and 3 years. But now, let's say it's 3 years. It's manifesting. You see it manifesting. Now you can change it. Okay? And you can add some other affirmation. And that'll only take 18 months. Aha! Now you can add another affirmation. That's only going to take 3 months. You understand? Aha! Now the next time, it's only going to take 3 days. Very good. So the more you work with it and master and move to the next, it becomes easy. It's like learning to ride a bicycle. Tricycle is very easy. Okay? Like that I am thinking. So we're back to, why do you feel so bad about yourself? Why do you have the self-image? Another approach is to simply neti principle, constantly through the day. I am not my body. I am not my mind. I am not my thoughts. Nor am I really my personality. You hear the word my. It's not you. It's something you own. And of course, to study, to work, to meditate, to practice all sort of esoteric, mystical, religious techniques to improve it is fine. But accept it as it is. Accept it as it is and improve it. Don't try to improve it and then accept it. And the key factor is just love. I know that's very westernized, very bhakti shakti, but it is a truism. Just love. But don't expect people to love you back. I tell you from personal experience. Just love. Which means don't go where you're not invited. Be friendly. Be warm. Be open. And have that old heart radiating genuine non-judgmentalness. And you'll be surprised the response people will. We want to be loved. We want to be respected. I am believing. We don't want to be, I don't know if the word is criticized. I don't think we mind being criticized. But we want to have a place of acceptancy. And I tell you the truth, and that truth is that acceptancy is primarily within yourself. And it comes, I believe, only after you accept the world. And you may say, but I can't. The world's terrible. People are awful. And the answer is, I didn't say they were good, etc., etc. I simply said accept it. Why would you expect the human personality to be perfect? It's human. It's like saying a crazy woman. That's redundant. Like saying sex-starved man. It's redundant. You don't have to repeat the process. A humanoid by nature is an evolving and perfect creature. So why expect, other than the Virgo part of your nature, why expect perfection? Accept them in their imperfection. You'll find they're more fun. Which leads me to the third point, and that is simply, really, try to enjoy life. Don't be so serious. Play more, laugh more, and study more. Try to do truly that which brings joy to you, and you will find people around you, whether they understand or not, in time, will be joy-filled for you, and in time will be filled with joy that you are radiating to them. It's like, it's like lighting a fire. There must be a spark somewhere to begin. Very, very, very important. The power of the mind is like the power of a dammed-up river. It's awesome. And it has to be released wisely and with good control. I remember some years back I had a bad Saturn. It usually deals with sand and old men. And I was on an island in the Pacific, and there was a stagnant river coming up to the ocean, separated by the ocean by about 15 feet of slanting sand. And I thought, that stagnant water, it's going to grow a lot of bacteria. That's not good. So I took a little twig, just a little twig, about half the size of this pencil, thickness of this pencil. And I simply scratched a line in the sand. And the water from the river trickled down and stopped, and so I scratched it where it stopped and scratched it, and I scratched it about 12 times. And all of a sudden, there's a little trickle of this water coming down and going into the ocean. I said, in an hour or two, or maybe by tomorrow, the scum will have, decanted off, if that's the proper word, and we'll be fine. It's the wrong word. And then I went and I sunbathed, and I was sitting there, and I had my sandwich, and all of a sudden I seen a lot of people down the beach gathering, and I said, well, something must happen. Maybe a seal came up. So I walked over there, and here this little pencil thinness sand was now a roaring river. It gained momentum. Now it had split the island section of the sandbar we were on totally in half by a good 12 feet. And the water was rushing out into the ocean about 200 feet. And the old man looked at me and said, "You did that, didn't you?" I said, No, God did that. I was just trying to get rid of the bacteria growing on the surface. He said, "You don't understand the power. You could have really hurt someone." I said, "I think I did. I think I hurt myself. It's a bad Saturn." That to me was frightening, to stand there about an hour and a half later, and that's not much time, an hour and a half later, and seeing this river, and I mean river, that's about 5 feet deep, 12 feet wide, going out and carrying the sand out 200 feet, out into the ocean itself. That was really frightening. And I think you understand what I am saying is we have within us a lot of dammed up rivers of emotional energy, and we do have to be careful that we deal with them wisely, that we put a good floodgate on them, that we sure that we are at peace, truly at peace, and harmonizing and understanding and patient, and then move forward. We will not be destructive to ourselves and therefore not destructive to others. I am thinking in some sense it is primarily like that I wanted to share with you this morning. Once upon a yogi time, there was a woman, and she was talking to another woman, and she was saying, "Bitchy, bitchy, bitchy, blankety, 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 that terrible husband of mine, bitch, 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 moan, moan, crab, crab, crab. So I did such and such to him." And the other woman said, "Well, then what's the problem?" She says, "Well, really, the problem is what I did to him. I'm sorry that I did it to him." And the other woman says, "Well, that's not, well, maybe what you ought to do is go over there and pick up the phone and tell him you're sorry. Why don't you go back to the house and where he's living now and apologize to him? Tell him that you were a fool. Go back, tell him you were hurt and you did it. Maybe tell him you were angry." And the first woman looked at the second woman and said, "I don't regret it that much." Once upon a yogi time when Kriya was very, very young, he had a stepbrother and he had a stepsister. And my mother gave the brother 3 cents, and he went and bought an ice cream cone. That tells you how long ago it was. What are they, $1.50 now? Or $1.85? Anyway, it was 3 cents we bought an ice cream cone. He bought an ice cream cone. And he ate it. And my mother looked out, and the sister was crying. She called her in and said, "What you crying?" She says, "He didn't give me any ice cream." So my mother called in my brother and said, "Here's a nickel, you know. Aren't you sorry that you ate all the ice cream?" "So yes, Mother, I really am sorry." So she gave him the nickel. So he went and bought another ice cream cone. The idea was to buy an ice cream cone to share it with the sister. Well, anyway, a few minutes later, my mother looked out there, and my brother was eating the ice cream cone. And the sister is crying. And my mother calls him in and said, "I thought you said you were sorry." And he said, "Well, I was." She says, "Well, why didn't you share it with your sister?" And he says, "I wasn't that sorry." You hear what I'm trying to teach? I don't know if the regret is the word. I'm not sure that sorry is the word. There needs to be an awakening and an overcoming of an enemy. And I think the enemy is, I call it forgetfulness. The Sanskrit word is advidya, that oftentimes is translated ignorance, which I think is really a bad translation. Forgetfulness. We forget that we're hurting ourselves. We forget that we're hurting another person. We forget that with this symbolic selfishness, that really we're closing ourselves off. This idea of loving, this idea of sharing, this idea of giving, is to make a channel. Back to the river, you know. We make the channel, all right? And as we make the channel is the channel by which the good things of life do flow in. Now, we have to be careful that we're not manipulated with that concept. I hope you do understand that. But it is a true principle, that if we do not make a channel of love or of communications or of wisdom, there can be no inflow to our being. And what life is about is growing and if you'll permit me, basically maturing. What we need to do is to defeat the enemy. And as I say, the enemy is forgetfulness, blindness, greed, whatever word you want. I simply call it negative emotion. We have to defeat that enemy. How do we do this? We do this by becoming more conscious, more self-aware of what's happening in ourselves, what's happening around us. And therefore we have greater control. But that's not the end goal, that's a stepping stone. To be self-aware is not enough. Simply to be aware is not enough. Genghis Khan was aware. Napoleon Bonaparte was aware. Certainly Cardinal Richelieu was very, very aware. These men were all aware. And Madame X was very aware. Awareness is not enough. Self-awareness is not enough. That awareness has to be balanced. Whether it is balanced through wisdom, whether it's balanced through sacrifice, whether it's balanced through love, however it is balanced, the awareness must be non-destructive to ourselves. If it is non-destructive to ourselves, it will not, even in the shorter, longer run, be destructive to anyone else. If it is not destructive to anyone else, you are part. If it is not destructive to other people, it will not be destructive to you, is what I'm trying to say. And I think that that is the point. We must become more aware, and then more self-aware if you prefer, and then balance that out. In that balanced self-awareness, we must sustain the life that we have. And then from that sustaining life, we need to expand it and improve it. And as you expand and as you improve your life, you will expand and improve your lives. I'm going to tell you a story that you may not like. It's a true story. I was in a country not too long ago, living in a foreign country, all right? And when I was there many, many decades ago, many, many years ago if you prefer, a couple of decades ago, everybody in the morning went out and swept their street. They swept the front of their house and the street, and they washed it down every morning. Okay? But no one has been doing it when I came to this part of the country. Okay? And so I asked someone. No one would say anything to me. So I asked a wise woman, Swami Mayananda. And she says, "Oh, that's quite obvious why they're not doing it. Don't you know that these countries in Europe here, that these countries having a problem, that they owned that they were imperialistic and had a lot of countries under their thumb. What do you call that? Slaves. And she says, all these people now are coming back to the mother country. Okay? And she says, all of these people are considered inferior to the people living in this country, and the only jobs they can get is sweeping streets. So these people, the nationals, refuse to sweep the streets for fear that other people will feel they're inferior because the people sweeping the streets are inferior. You follow the logic? Well, I start questioning this. I start debating this. And after a few months, guess what? People start sweeping their streets again. Because I reminded them how dumb Americans were, that they were waiting for someone else to do it. You know, a man's dying on the street, and you say, oh, it's not my job. I'm not a doctor. You know, I'm not a policeman. Why should I call the police or the majority? It's not my responsibility. Or the poor person who has a dirty house. Well, I can't help it. I'm poor. You may not be able to help it if you're poor, but you can help it if the house isn't clean. So they start washing their streets again in a small section. We can, just by questioning ourselves, we can help to improve ourselves. We are influences, we are lights. We can be destructive or constructive to our civilization. But the goal, in simplest terms, is to heal. That's what today is about, to heal. To heal by seeing what is within, and oftentimes by giving up our desires, our goals, by giving up our position of being first. Marriage is probably the most common mystical union and experience that the average man or woman experiences. And it's a nightmare for the average man and woman because they simply refuse to be in the second place. As I said once, when a woman marries a man, if that's the way it goes, the woman must give 185%. And the man must give 285%. That way you'll get about 50-50. But that isn't the way it's going. It's not the way it's going. It's me, I, mine. Emotionally, if not verbally and physically. And the answer, it won't work. What we are learning by this encounter with this not self, the spouse, is the symbolic encounter of you with God. And that's where most people are at. You and life, if you prefer. Oh, what is he going to give me today? Let's see, what should I ask for today? And that's not what it's about. You know. The next to last time I talked to God, I asked him, people down there, God, they're really, really, really complaining about you. They're really mad as hell at you. If you want the truth, Lord. That's what I'm supposed to do, right? Right, I think. Why are they mad at me, my son? Because you're not answering their prayers. He said, forgive me. I'm answering. They're not hearing. And I stupidly said, why? He says, because they're all is an English word meaning lots of people. Because they're all on the gimme channel. And I'm functioning on the give you channel. Two different channels. If you love your husband, or let's put it the other way, ye out there that are of the masculine nature, if you will love your wife with gentleness and passion, if you will love your wife gently, warmly, respectfully, tenderly, you will have the most passionate experience of your life. For she is the gate to heaven, or the gate to hell. And you alone open that door. As long as you say, gimme, I bought you, I spent $10 for the certificate. God, what a barbaric, antiquated idea. It doesn't work. It doesn't work anymore. Get a new method. You will find, as you love her, you will be amazed what she can do to you and for you. And just reverse it. I went once as a very young child, I close with this. I went once as a very young child up to the throne of God. for the purpose of asking for something very selfish, 10,000th thing. And I got up there as a very young child, and I could not remember. And for a moment I was upset. And he kept saying symbolically, "What do you want? What do you want?" And I couldn't remember. I could not remember what that selfish thing was. And so, not knowing what I wanted, because I could not speak it, he did the only thing he could do. He gave himself to me. And I came down, and for decades I could not speak. Physically. I could not speak. Other than to say, "Good morning," whether it was 9 o'clock at night. "Good morning. How are you? Do you think it'll rain?" I couldn't speak other than those 3 sentences. There is, as we say in the modern world, there is a price to pay for all things. I learned to speak again only when I chose to teach you. I learned to speak when I tried to help you. I could not do these things until you came to me with your love and your faith and your respect in me and in the teaching. You have blessed me beyond your wildest, even wildest imagination. And for this, right now, at this moment, I return to you that blessing. And may I say, before I begin the blessing, how happy, how delighted I am to see so many young children here today. It truly pleases me. Truly, truly pleases me. May they be blessed. May you be blessed. May we be blessed. Would you take a deep breath, please? And just exhale. Just let go. Take another breath, and as you exhale, let go of your problems. Feel for a second at this moment. Feel joy. Feel peace. Feel tranquility. Feel equanimity. Feel harmony. Be at peace. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Hari. My beloved, my other half, my better half, my truer half, at this moment, be thou blessed. Allow the blessing to enter, to heal each and every cell of your being. Allow the blessing to enter, to heal each and every petal of your mind. Be at peace. Draw in the light. Be healed. Be whole. Be at peace. Be loving. Be kind. Be gentle. Be understanding. Dare to love and to be loved. Dare to teach and to be taught. Dare to live and to regenerate that life. I tell you, and I tell you true, your dream shall come to pass. Rethink swiftly, surely, that dream. May the Divine Spirit heal you. May all the saints and sages of all religions bring forth their blessing and their healing. May the holy divine Kriya lineage bring its blessing now to you and offer it unto you. May the powers that be, the divine powers that be, set within the throne of your being. May you and I and that divine flame sup upon each other, being fulfilled and complete. May we find the wonderment and joy. May we find the snowflakes of yesteryear. Be thou happy, be thou blessed, be thou whole, be thou content. I owe you a great debt. Where'er this body goes, where'er this consciousness goes, it shall not forget you. And with the dawn of each day, that blessing will be sent unto you, unto eternity. With the full moon of each month, the reflected light of the feminine principle of love shall pour forth to you. Sup upon this wisdom, sup upon this love. Become strong. Love. Teach. Teach. Love. Be whole. Be happy. Heal the world around you.